Good morning, I'm Rick Stivers. I'd like to welcome you to Young Martin's Reels. Today's reel project is going to be this Berkley 415, and the reel seems to work okay. It's got a wobbly head. I did take the spool off and tighten the nut down, which improved it dramatically, but it's still not completely sound, so I don't know that there's much more I'm going to be able to do for that. It's definitely a little grindy. The anti-reverse on it works fine. And let's see about the bail. Okay, the bail trips beautifully, but we are going to go ahead and take that bail completely apart. We're going to take this all the way down, clean it. I have a feeling it's going to be very dirty inside. So let's get started on it. Okay, well, that looks pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and take the handle off. And we're going to remove these 3 screws from the side plate. Okay, all 3 screws are the same. Yeah. Okay, that's pretty nasty looking inside. But it does give you a pretty good look at how things operate inside there, and gives you a good look at it. This is not a bad option if you're taking a reel apart to be able to go in and take a look at what it's doing inside. The anti-reverse is disabled at the moment. Let's go ahead and turn it on. You can see it clicking right here. That's our anti-reverse pawl. And be interesting to see exactly how that's set up in there. All right, I'm going to turn it off for the moment. And let's get busy taking this apart. First thing we're going to do is we're going to remove this screw right here from the crosswind block. There we go. And we should be able to slide the axle shaft out. Very dirty. And I'm not sure, this looks like old, man, that's probably just grease piled up there. But yeah, we've got a lot of cleaning to do on this. Let's go ahead and remove the crosswind block. All right, now the rotor doesn't want to come off yet because it's held in by this nut. So let's see if we can remove that nut. Now I think it was on the 820 that I did. I think this nut was counterclockwise. It doesn't seem to be, neither. There we go. This one is standard threaded, so it comes off in a counterclockwise fashion. Slip the rotor up and off. Now notice that there is this keyway plate right here. That keyway, if you look at it, has got a flat side that's supposed to latch onto the pinion shaft. And then these 2 flat spots fit right in here on each side to lock this to the rotor. Okay, let's set that over to the side. And let's keep those separate over here. All right, now we should be able to take the pinion out. Well, we could, except that the post is getting in the way right here. So slide this back forward and rotate the main gear around to move that post over to the side. Now let's see if it'll come out. There we go. But now let me show you something. Okay, there's a washer right there up under this side. Look at how much play is in that. That's where our wobble's coming from. Okay, which means that this case is worn. Now, will this reel still be usable? Yes, it will. Will it perform as well as it did when it was new? No, it won't. The only thing that could possibly be done that I could think of for that would be to machine that out and put a new bushing in and ream the new bushing to the correct size. And this reel just is not worth that kind of detail work. But if you were somebody with their own machine shop sitting there bored at home, yeah, you could take care of that. Okay, we're going to set the pinion over here. And we're going to slide out the main gear. Or at least that's the plan. Okay. The main gear appears to be hitting. There we go. Slide that down. There we go. All right. Now we can easily see our anti-reverse dog here. It has a spring that is wrapped around it somewhere back here in the back. I can't see it. Maybe you can see it in the video. But we are going to take that apart and clean it out. You should not have to do that. This is not one of those things I recommend you do. This is one of those things that you can do if you absolutely had to. All right. So we're going to take this out. We're going to remove this pin right here. If this is made like most of these that I've ever seen, the way this is, this pin here has got a shoulder cut into it. And what you would do is you just collapse the spring that's holding it down. Let's do it this way. Collapse the spring that's holding it down like that. And then you should be able to just slide the pin right out. And it's catching on the other side. There you go. All right, let me wipe that off so you can see it. All right, see the shape of that pin? And the way that works is that it slides through and then it hooks on there so that pin can't come back out. When we go to put it back in, we won't have nearly that much trouble. It'll just slide right in. That point, we'll just push the pin down and lock it into place. All right, we're going to release the spring now. And that will allow us to pull the switch out like so. And now our spring is just laying inside here. We'll take that out like so. All right, now notice this shot over across the way when we release the switch off of it, which means that it's got a spring right in here, which I still can't see the spring. I can see the back side of it, but I'm having difficulty spotting the front side of the spring that's pushing it that way. But we'll see it in a few minutes when I get it cleaned up. In the meantime, let's go ahead. And like I said, I recommend you do not take this screw out, and it may not come out. It may be in there pretty well. That screwdriver doesn't fit it. That one won't fit it. And if this one won't take it out, I'm going to leave it. Oh, there it comes. All right. So, even broken loose, it's still a very tight screw, which means it's got some corrosion on the threads or somebody's had it out and cross-threaded it. Long screw. All right. All right, there we go. There's that spring I couldn't see. See that little tab right there? That was lost in the grease. And that's going to sit up right inside there like that. Okay? So when you put this in, you'll set the spring in first, put this piece over top of it, screw it down, and then when this rotates around, it'll catch that spring. And then you'll hold it in place while you put the switch back on. But again, I'm telling you, you should not need to take that all apart. You should be able to just clean it right where it's at. Using a cotton swab, you should be able to clean it all out. All right, next on the agenda to come apart is going to be, okay, now this trips, but if you were to operate it, you would feel that it's really gritty feeling. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take this apart. First thing I like to do is disconnect the unsprung side so that I can tell whether or not the wire itself is sprung. Okay, with it off, it should pretty much stay right where it's at. Now, this one is sprung a little bit. See how it's pulling forward? You have to pull it back to get it to go into its spot. Well, that means that it's slightly sprung. It should naturally sit right where it belongs, like that. And now it's still a little sprung on the outward, so we'll squeeze it in just a little bit, put it back in. Now, when it trips, there's nothing grabbing and holding. Okay, so we'll set those two over there, and let's come back to this side now, and we'll remove this screw from the sprung side. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and take it off here. Okay, there we go. Wow, that had been on there a long time. It made a nice loud pop when it disconnected. Okay, this is a bolt. This is not a nut. It's a bolt that goes through. Okay, there's our bail wire. There's our roller. Next comes the bolt, and under that is a lock nut. Okay, I'm going to set all that over here, and it's nice and clean, so I'm not going to have to clean it, so I can just kind of assemble that together and leave it right there. All right, now we're down to this part. And we'll go ahead and unscrew the screw. Like so. And now this sprung side, there you go, pops loose. And look at all the dirt that is down inside that bail spring. Now you would really have a really hard time cleaning all this dirt out without taking this apart. So there are times when this must come apart. And I'm going to recommend that you don't do it unless you absolutely have to, but that's a mess in there. Okay, now we're down to this one. And again, I'm going to leave that one in there. Well, somebody's going to want to do it. So let's see if the screw will come undone. And I don't have a screwdriver, I don't believe, that fits that slot. Yep, I do. Okay. I swear these feel like they've got Loctite on them. Let's see if this one fits the slot better. There we go. How long that screw is. All right. So now we've got that. We're going to lift that out, and that leaves just the spring right here that fits over the post. And I'm going to stretch that out a little bit. I have a feeling that that's sprung just a little bit. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of backward twist. There we go. So that hopefully it will hold a little stronger. All right, now the only thing left to take apart is the drag spool. And we've got this wire, and this one looks like it would shoot really far, so be careful taking that one out. Okay, what do we got for drag washers here? We have the heavy steel plate sitting on top of the tension washer, sitting on top of one big thick leather, maybe, wow, that one's flattened on one, so you can tell. Okay, look at this. I don't know how well you can see it in the video, but that tension spring has flattened the washer down in a couple of places. So even with the tension of the knob removed a little bit, it's still holding tension against there and pressing down on that. But think we will soak that in some oil and see if we can't get it to swell up again. It's all dried out. Put some oil and then add a little WD-40 to hopefully help soak it in. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take all these parts, scrub them clean, and get them up and ready to assemble again. There's no pretty much anybody can scrub parts. The only thing that I would suggest that you do is when you get to like the main gear here and to the pinion gear, that you take something. I like to use a safety pin and scrape the old congealed grease out of the grooves to make sure that you've got them good and clean. And if a soft brush does the job without getting to that point, great, but usually it doesn't. Usually when they're this old, the stuff is set in there for so long that it doesn't want to come out. So I'm going to scrub all these parts up, and I will get back to you in just a few minutes. All right, parts cleaned up quite nicely. And let's begin the reassembly. We're going to start off by putting the trip mechanism back into the rotor. So we're going to start that off by setting the spring back in first. Now, if you look right here, there's the post. See the slot right here? Well, this spring is going to go in here. It's got a long side and a short side. The long side is going to go out along the outside edge, and the short side is going to go down in this hole right here. And the hole in the loop is going to go around that post, just like that. Up. Now, see what I did by stretching the spring out a little bit? I made it a little more difficult. It's going to be stronger, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult to put back in. Okay. Let's set it down in there like so. This time I'm not going to spring that. We are going to now take this long part here. And this is the side that goes in this hole right here. We're going to take this long side, slide it through the slot, and we're going to catch the spring right here on this long piece that sticks down and drop it down in the hole like that. Okay, that way the spring is on the inside of that, which is forcing it that direction. Okay, I'll see it at the same time. Now, okay, I've got it a little bit cockeyed. Let's see if we can get the screwdriver on it and get it straightened out. There we go. And I'll let the spring get away. If you'll notice, see, there's a spring right there. Okay, what you can do is lift this back up, get the spring on the other side of it, right here. Slide that spring around to the other side and then push this back down, like that, so that it will, when it's in position. Okay, we're gonna lift this up, slide the spring around to the other side, and then drop it down. I'm not gonna try to spring action that until I get the screw down most of the way, because it keeps wanting to pop out and out. Let's go ahead and screw the screw down. Okay. Now, see how it works? Okay. Make sure that when you tighten it all the way down, that it still moves. I'm going to get one nice little snug. There we go. And we're going to put a drop of oil on it. One on the top side of it, and one from the bottom side. That will keep that moving for many, many years, just like that. Now, we are going to put our trip mechanism back in. Okay, this is going to go in with this side, the angled side, facing towards the inside of the rotor. Okay, so it's going to go like this. Okay, so that when this comes back, that will drop into place right there and lock it. Okay. Now this is our spring for it, and see this notch right here cut in? Well, this little tab that sticks out to the side right there is going to go into that notch right there. like that. Now comes the fun part. Now we need to get that notch or tab sticking out to get into this hole right here, that little hole right there, and then drop onto it like that. Okay, and we're ready to put our screw in. No, we're not. We got one piece to add. Thought something looked off. I've got this little trim ring that goes on top. And the left and right side appear to be exactly the same, so there we go. Okay, with the screw down, this should pivot just fine. All right. Okay, and I knew we were going to hit. I just couldn't figure out where we were going to hit. Okay, we're not hitting over here. We're hitting on this corner. See this corner right here? That's what's going to keep this bail from normally tripping all the way over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen this up just enough to get that past that corner. Just enough. Anything more than it's going to pop the spring out. There we go. Now when it comes back, it will lock into place. And when you trip it from inside, it trips. We're going to add a drop of oil here. And we're going to add a drop, a little more than a drop, because that spring's got to turn inside there. It's going to twist inside that mechanism. Okay. Now we're ready to come back and install the bail wire. Okay. The bolt with the washer through comes through on this side. Then the roller goes on. Then the bail wire. Don't tighten it all the way down, just get it snug. Bring it to the other side, and we're going to check this fit again. We're still just a little bit on the outside. This should fit just a little more snugly in, but you don't want it to be real tight. There. You want it to almost fit without any help from the spring. Let's go one more little bit. There we go. Okay. That's how you want that to fit. Once you've done that, put your washer back up. Put your screw on. Like so. Okay, now we're going to come back and tighten this nut down. Don't break it, it's small. Okay, with everything set, we should be able to trip the bail just like that. Okay, and it shouldn't be necessary, but we're going to put a drop of oil right there just to, so that that will move easily forever and ever inside that little hole. Okay, got that part. Now we're going to move on to putting your anti-reverse back together. We're going to start off by setting the spring. It's got this little tab that sticks up right here. See that tab? Well, that's going to go towards this end of the reel, and this straight end is going to go right straight down. And that big hole loop is going to go over top of that post right there. That's all you got to do. Set it in there just like that. Then you're going to come back with this piece, and you're going to set it over top of that spring. Now, if you set it on top where it's catching on that wire, it's going to hold it up in the air, and if you tighten it down, you'll bend it. Okay, so make sure that it's not on top of the wire. Make sure it's sitting flush like that. Once you've done that, you can put the screw back in, which is going to be easier said than done unless you have one of these. And this is one of my favorite tools. Okay, that allows me to lock the screw on there, and I can just stick it right down in there and get it started, and then pop it off, and then go back to my regular screwdriver. You don't want to use that screwdriver to tighten things with if you can help it, because if you tighten it down onto those little prongs, it'll break them off. Okay, get it almost snug. See if it still moves, and it does. Go ahead and snug it up the rest of the way. Okay, here's the thing. Before you pull this around, you've got to take and get this little tab. Don't leave it out here. You have to actually push it back and get it into that notch before you pull this around. If you do, then it'll stay in place when you bring it around. If you've still got it out there, it's going to pop around and fly out from underneath it. All right, so let's bring this around into place. And now we're going to take this switch, and it goes right here. Before we put that on, I'm going to put just a little bit of grease under the switch. Make it slide easier. Slip it in. See if I've got it the right way. I've got it backwards. Okay, flip it over. Okay, so the large tab goes to the outside, to the back. Slip it in, and that should hold that post in position. Then you're going to take your spring, slip your spring over top of the switch like that. And then you're going to take this pin and slip it into the hole. Like so. That now controls that. Okay, we're going to put a small amount, and not all that. We're going to put a small amount of grease right here where the spring slides forward. And we're going to put a little bit behind it where it slides. And then we're going to trip this back just a little bit like that and put a little bit of grease in between right there. That should be all that's needed there. All right, come back and add a drop of oil, maybe 2 under that so that it will pivot well, and flip it to the off position right there. Now we're ready for our main gear assembly. Now, when I cleaned the case, I found this washer was inside there. Okay, it was glued up against the side over there. So we can either glue it there ourselves, or we can glue it to the main gear, which I prefer to have it on the main gear as it goes in. Okay, now on the face of this, we're going to come back. We're going to put some grease on the teeth. And if anybody's interested, somebody seems to always ask, I'm using Cal's dry grease and fishing reel grease. We don't want a lot of grease, and then we got to put some on the face right here because the crosswind block will be winding there. Now to go inside the hole there to keep this, I see a lot of wear there, but we're going to go ahead and put oil inside there. We've got this flipped back so that it stays disengaged, and we're going to slide this in like so. Okay. And the next thing we're going to put in is our pinion gear. And our pinion gear, I've scrubbed it up and cleaned it up. The teeth really are in remarkably good shape. I anticipated them being worse, but they're actually much better than I anticipated. But there is wear on this column, and that's because it's been wearing in here. And as that's been wearing, that allows this to wobble. As that wobbles, it's causing wear on the axle shaft itself. Okay, none of it is to the point where the reel can't be used, but it does have a lot of wear. But it also is a very old reel. It's got, what, I think this was probably made in the 70s. So it's got a lot of usage on it. All right, we'll go ahead and grease up the teeth on the pinion gear. And normally, it's a rotating area. I like to put oil, but in this case, because of the wear, I'm going to put grease. And this will slow the reel down a little bit, make it a little bit sluggish, but it will help prevent the wear. Okay, and then, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a washer on the pinion gear when I took it out. It goes right here, okay? Now, that washer, will, if you go ahead and slide it onto the pinion gear and you try to put the pinion gear in, it will keep this from going all the way in. So what you want to do is you can do one of two things. You can slide it on here and then kind of hold it at an angle as it goes in to get it to go in, or you can put just a little bit of grease right where the washer is going to sit, shim actually, and then set the shim in place right there. And then put your pinion gear in, like so, and it will drop right in. Okay, like so. All right, with that done, there's a washer that goes on here. It's a spacer. And I don't know if it was there originally or if someone added it. But there really needs to be one more shim up under this head. Because with the washer there, even when it's tightened down, see how there's still a little bit of play? So what I'm going to do is see if I've got another shim washer that I can add under there to make that fit just a little better. So I'll be back. Okay, I went out and found several shim washers in my stash down there. And I'm not sure which ones I'm going to need yet. So let's do a quick measurement. I think this is my thinnest. Okay, that one is 7 thousandths. Yep, that one is 6 thousandths. So that's my thinnest. This one's 27 thousandths. This one's 32 thousandths. And this one is 30 thousandths. Let's see if we can figure out what I need. Okay, the shim stayed in place, the original. All right. Okay, we're going to try these two and see if they're too much. Well, it seems about right. So, let's see what I got when I put all this back together. I think it's probably going to be just a little bit too tight. It's going to make it too snug. And I'm going to end up squeezing it together, and I don't think that's good. Have to get that lined up with the keyway on the pinion, then get it lined up with the keyway in the rotor, like so. So it locks the two together. Sit down and see what we've got. See if it's too tight. And it is. I tightened it up too much. Okay, so I'm going to take the smallest of the 3 shims out. It still rotates, but it binds just slightly. So I'm going to take the smallest of the 3 shims. I'll measure all 3 of them. And I'll take the smallest one out. So that's 7, 9, and 5. We're going to eliminate the 5 thousandths. Put the other 2 back in. And see how we're doing. There we go. Put your washer back on. You got to hold the pinion in place while you put this in. And you got to line this keyway up to the flat on the pinion shaft. Once you've done that, then rotate the rotor around until that drops into place, like so. All right. Okay. We took about 9 thousandths in play out of it. So it should work better than it has been. Now, it's time to come back and reinstall our crosswind block. Set it on the post, like so. Remember, the long end goes to the rear. Take our axle shaft, which, again, this axle shaft has been getting a lot of wear because that center is wobbling. So let's go ahead and put oil on, or grease on it instead of oil, and hope to prevent some wear. Slide the axle shaft in. And notice how it's bulging up right there. I'm going to take a cotton swab and wipe that off when we get there. Okay, get that to go in, slide it back. And now what we're going to do is we're going to line up this screw hole with this screw hole. Once you see the screw hole inside, you can go ahead and start this screw. And usually the hole is what's threaded, the one that's in the axle. In this case, it's in the crosswind block itself that it's threaded. So you have to get it to go in and get into that hole. If it goes a little bit and then binds, just back it off a little bit and start moving around till you find the hole. Okay. Here we we go. At this point, we'll set all these spare shims over to the side, and I'll put the cover back on. Okay, now this, I'll show you in just a second. Okay, and this reel was new. It had a cap that covered this end right here. Okay, and that cap has sometime along the way disappeared. If you can find a little plastic cap or something that will fit over that, you can get it and seal it up. Or you can, without getting it down inside there, put like some RTV to seal it up. Anything that will seal it and take care of that. All right, we're going to put the handle back on now. Tighten it down. Okay, now remember what I said, we were going to come back to this. If you look, all that extra grease that I put on that axle shaft is bulged up right there, and we're just going to wipe it off. There's no reason to leave all that grease sitting in there. It doesn't do any good. There, like so. All right, now, this is the bail trip. Look at that. All right, now we're going to come down to the bottom here. We're going to put ever so slightly a small amount of grease on the clicker. And we're going to go ahead and wipe out this hole where the drag washer sits. We're going to lubricate the drag washer. It did swell out a little bit, but not much. So we're going to go ahead and put it back in now. I put the dented side down. Give it a chance to kind of recuperate. Set this one in with the bends folding down. It's a pressure and tension plate. And we're going to set this one in place. And now it's time to put this clip back in. This is a strong little clip. Be careful with it because it will fly if you give it a chance. Look at that, it's trying. This one really wants to take off. Okay, it's almost in. Let's give it a little bit of assistance. All right, here. Okay, it's in. There we go. Now I'm gonna wipe that off. Now, this line is gonna get stripped off of here before I give it back to Charlie and send it on its way. That line is rotted, it's useless, so it's gotta go. Okay, slide that on. It's our final piece. There's our tensioner. There we go. There's our clicker for our drag. Hang it down. Okay, drag's working. All right, there you have the Berkley 415. Now, has it still got just a little bit of wobble in the head? Very little. I was able to take most of it out with that 7,000 shim. So that fixed a lot of that. Okay, let's check the anti-reverse. Works beautifully. Take it off. Works great. Bail trips. All right. Now, it does have, you know, some paint issues. It's certainly not a pretty reel by any means, but it is a functional reel, and I'd be happy to take it out fishing. So, Charlie, this one's on its way back to you tomorrow probably, and I think that's it for Charlie for a while. I've got to get caught up. I've got, I don't know, if I've got about 150 reels piled up that I've got to get taken care of before I start bringing in too many new projects. If somebody's got something really unique that they would like for me to take on, or something that, you know, was grandpa's reel or something that you're just afraid to take on, let me know, and I'll be happy to see what I can do to help you out with that. I have slowed way tremendously down, and trying to get some fishing in, trying to work on my Jeep, trying to get all these things done all at the same time. And I don't know how I ever managed to get anything done while I was working a full-time job. It just, I have no time for anything now that I'm retired. So if you like what you saw today, please hit the like button. If you didn't like it, hit the dislike button. Tell me what it is you didn't like. Hey, I'm always making mistakes. For those of you who might have missed it, I did the servicing on the Shakespeare 2052, and Tyler let me know that, hey, that reel should run a lot better than it did. And I went back, reserviced it, and there's a video out there revisited, and it's in high speed fast forward. I didn't want to take you guys all the way through it after I had just done it the day before. But basically, I went through, cleaned it up, re-lubricated it with oil in some spaces, and the reel functions much, much better. But this little Berkley 415, it's getting ready to head to Charlie back at the flea market. Hopefully it will end up in somebody's little stash, and they'll take it out fishing again. For now, that's Rick Stivers with Young Martin's Reels, signing out.